Has this ever happened to you? You're trying to just see what kind of data is coming in, maybe from an API or the database. Either way, you have a nested data structure. You say, oh, let me go ahead and check out that data. And you console log that data because that's what we do, right? And then you're hit with this object, or and sometimes object. And you say, hey, I'm trying to see what this data is. And I can't see anything because it says object here. Well, how do you fix this? Now, while I have my own technique, I figured I would go to Stack Overflow and then try several of the options that people suggested as a solution there. The first one being to use Json Stringify data. Now, if you use Json Stringify and then pass in your data here, we can rerun this. We can hit run and see that the console log this time does in fact give us all of the information. So, ding, Json Stringify does work for getting all of the data out of a nested object. Now, let's go ahead and try another suggested solution, which was console dir, which should hopefully give you access to this. Now, I can confirm that this does work in browser, but we're in a node context here. So console dir, let's see if this is a good replacement, especially if you're working in isomorphic apps. This time, it gives you the same output as console log. Now, console dir can give you some cool interactivity in the browser, but in node context, we're getting hit with the same exact output. Now, I saved this last one for last because it is my preferred solution, and in my opinion, it is the nicest solution. This is Json Stringify data, but instead of just straight up Json Stringifying the data, we're passing in some options to Json Stringify. In fact, let me put this on some new lines so you can see what those options are. For the first parameter is data. The second parameter in Json Stringify is going to be null. Why? Well, this is what's called the replacer. It's not something we need for this. And the last value is going to be the amount of spacing. Now, what does spacing get you in this instance? It gets you some beautiful formatting in the output. So instead of getting a jumbled mess of who knows what, and instead of getting an object instead of our data, we're getting a beautifully output version of our data in an object structure very similarly to how we wrote it in the first place. So if you're out there looking to not have object in your console logs, just pop in a Json Stringify with data, null, and then this is however many spaces you want. If you want it tighter, this can be 1. If you want it wider spaced out, you can have this be anything you'd like. Some people use 4. Now, another quick tip is that you can always create a log function, so you can have a function log where you simply console log out the data here, and then instead of running a console log like this, you can just run your log function and say log data. This should give us the same predictable way of doing our logging every single time. Then we don't have to run a whole Json Stringify business and have all this kind of ugly extra code in here, right? We get to just wrap it up in a neat log. Not to mention if you're using some sort of error tracking like Sentry or something like that, you could then keep track of your logs in some other type of service as well, perhaps if this is going to be logging an error specifically. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next